friends, the name of this video is very typical. The time of supply and supply of penalty. Now, what is supply of penalties under GST Act? Now, all penalties in the GST Act are they supplies. To be a supply, they have to fall under Schedule 2, Clause 5E, which talks about agreeing to an act or forbearance and to an act or to tolerate an act. So for a penalty to be chargeable, it has to be a forbearance or a toleration of an act. Now, what is consideration? Under 231 Clause B, consideration is the monetary value of such an act of forbearance which is in respect of or in response to or on an inducement of the supply of goods or services, whether by the recipient or by any person, but shall not include subsidy given by the central or state government. Now let us come to the GST Act and let us understand. There are primarily two kinds of penalties. One is penalties which are applicable for delayed payment in case of supply of goods or services. So here there is a penalty which is a delayed payment and there is an underlying goods or service, and section 15 says that such a penalty for delayed payment would partake the nature of such supply of goods or services. So for example, in case certain laptops have been supplied to a customer, the customer delays the payment, and as per the terms of the agreement, such a penalty, it would not be a forbearance, but it would partake the nature of such laptops, and with the same HSN code, you have to charge for the penalty. And what is the time of supply of such penalty? It is the time of supply. The time of supply is when you receive such money, which means that it is deemed that the laptops to the value of such penalty has been delivered or received only at the time of receipt of such payment. However, let us compare this now with a penalty imposed by the court on an appellant. Is there a particular agreement? Is there a particular supply which is underlying? No. It is a unilateral flow. Why such unilateral flow? Because it should act as a disincentive to violate the terms of the court, and that is why such penalty is introduced as a unilateral measure by the court without any supply of a service by the appellant. Therefore, the first point of difference is the penalty only for delayed payment, there is a consumption of service or goods which is happening, but for a general penalty, there is no consumption which is happening. The second point is there is a terms and conditions in case of a specific penalty, like for delayed payment. But in case of a penalty which should act as a disincentive, there is no terms and conditions. There is a particular provision against which the penalty is imposed just to act as a disincentive. Now let us compare non-compete agreements. Here again there is a agreement whereby the person who leaves the organization has to give a service of tolerating the fact that he cannot join another organization in the same trade, and such service is consumed by the instant organization, and hence it is a supply which is liable to GST under item number 5E of Schedule 2. Let us again now compare this with a penalty or a charge for non-service of notice period. Is there an agreement? Yes, there is an agreement, but such agreement, it is written that the notice period has to be served, otherwise there would be a penalty to act as a disincentive for violating the terms of the condition, the agreement. However, there is no consumption of tolerance by the employer. Therefore, there is no supply of service which is consumed by the employer in the instant case. Hence, what comes out of this whole conclusion, of this whole discussion, is that supply has to be there, and there cannot be a unilateral imposition of penalty. If there is so, then it is not a supply and not liable to GST. Therefore, in our concerted view, the payment received by an organization for notice period is not liable to GST. Regarding the time of supply of general penalties, the penalties for delayed payment of consideration in case of an agreement, the time of supply as per section 12 subsection 6 or 13(6), it would be the rate of receipt of the such payment. Hence, the supply of penalties, as we discussed in this video, should be divided into two parts: only for penalties for delayed payment, or where there is an agreement and there is a tolerance or forbearance or a penalty which should act as a disincentive. The first part should be taxable as a forbearance or the underlying goods or service, and the second type of penalty should not be liable to tax at all. Thank you very much.